Hello friends, welcome back. Welcome back. I am here again to finally read our story, and I'm excited about this story because I love Curious George. He's a funny little friend. We kind of lost Biscuit there. Funny little friend who is a monkey, who is our main character in the story, who gets into a lot of things he shouldn't be in, going places he shouldn't be going, doing things he should not be doing that are really unsafe at times. But because this story is fiction or non-fiction, I'm wondering. I'm looking at this monkey and I'm looking at a dinosaur and I'm wondering, what do you guys think? Ah, I hear somebody saying, it is not real. 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 It's make-believe. It's make-believe. It's make-believe. It's make-believe. It's make-believe. And if you were singing that song or you were shouting out to the camera, you are absolutely correct. This is fiction. And so I want you guys to go, because you already know. I want you to tell your parents as you're reading through your story today about the different parts of the story that help you to decide why this particular book is a fiction book. Now, the title of our book is Margaret and H.A. Ray's Curious George's Dinosaur Discovery. And I love that word, discovery. When we're discovering things, and we've talked about in science a lot, we're making observations, but when you're discovering things, it means you're finding something. And not just anything, but you're finding something really important or really interesting. When you discover it, it's usually something maybe you've never seen before, or something you weren't necessarily looking for, but then you found it and it was a pretty cool thing. And so if you can tell from the cover, Curious George is touching things he shouldn't be touching. But we're going to go through the story. But before I go through the story, I want to go over a few words that we're going to encounter in the story. So as I turn to the title page, again, it tells us this is Margaret and H.A. Ray's Curious George's Dinosaur Discovery. It tells us that this book was written by Catherine Hapka. Who remembers the word that we use when someone writes something? That person is the author. Very good. Now, then it says it was illustrated in the style of H.A. Ray, and illustrated in the way that H.A. Ray would draw it. And that person, her name is Anna Crossnickel Hines. She has a really long name. Pretty cool though. So if it was illustrated by Anna, that means Anna drew exactly, she drew the pictures. I think she did a pretty good job, don't you think? Pretty cool, pretty cool. So we see the little monkey here and he's carrying a tool. Can anybody tell me what that tool is? Not a big spoon. It's a shovel. Very good. For those of you who already knew what that was, pretty good. It is a shovel. And we're going to see a shovel in our story because Curious George is going to go on a dinosaur discovery. So is he looking for dinosaurs? We don't know. We'll read and find out exactly what he's looking for. But I want you to think about, have you ever seen a real dinosaur before? Do you think he's going to find a dinosaur? Do you think a dinosaur is going to find him? We'll find out. But I did want to show you guys this picture of a shovel. This is a picture of a shovel, and people generally use shovels to dig into dirt and different things that they're trying to unearth or to pick up, or even use it to pick some things up with. And so that's one of the words we're going to see in our story today. The word is shovel. And we have the SH at the beginning of this. And SH makes what sound, friends? SH. Shovel. That's a shovel. I'm going to kind of talk you through the book as we're reading it as well. Now, this book is kind of different. In this book, it has a table of contents. Generally, a fiction book would not have a table of contents. Our nonfiction books do. But because this particular book, in the back of it, has some informational text in the back, then they gave it a table of contents to separate those two things. So at the beginning of the book, we find our Curious George story, but in the back of this book, we have an informational text that talks about exploring land and water. All right, and here's the picture that we're looking at. And here, Curious George is looking at something. And he has his finger under his chin, and usually when people do this, they're thinking. They have questions in their mind. They start thinking about, what is this? What do you do with this? And that lets me know that George is right now being curious. He's curious. He's wondering, what do you do with those things? And I see what looks like a can, what looks like a shovel, of course. Then there's a tool here, and they'll talk about it a little more in the story, but I'll give you heads up on it, and it is called a pickaxe. Now, when we get closer into the story, you'll find out why this is really, really important to what he's doing in the story. So, we talked about compound words before, and this word is made up of two words, and I want you to say pickaxe. And can anybody tell me, what two words do you hear in pickaxe? Pick and axe. Very good. You guys are the smartest kids I know in your body. Of course. All right. So I'm going to start reading the story and listen in. This is George. He was a good little monkey and always very curious. George loved to go places with his friend, the man with the yellow hat. You see the man with the yellow hat here? They're going into a place here, and up here it says museum. One of their favorite places to visit was the Dinosaur Museum. And a museum, I have a picture of a museum, is a building where objects of historical, scientific, or cultural items are stored and exhibited. So it's a building where they keep things that were made long ago, things from long ago, where people go in to look at these things. They're on exhibit. I was about to say most times you can't touch them, but there are things that most of the time they're behind glass, so they can be preserved or they can be kept so that other people can see them and see the history of things. And if you look closely into this one, there is a picture of a dinosaur in this museum as well. So I've been to a museum before in Chicago, and really, really cool. I saw lots and lots of dinosaur bones and beautiful paintings and different things like that. So it's not always animals. It could be paintings. It could be different types of vases, or what they call vases, and different things in the museums that would be very interesting. There are also museums for children that have really fun things in them for kids as well. So they are going into a museum. What kind of museum were they going into? Anybody remembers? A dinosaur museum. Thank you. Thank you. Today is a special day, George's friend said. We are going to do something very interesting. George was curious. What could be more interesting than a trip to the Dinosaur Museum? The man with the yellow hat had led the way through the museum. George wanted to stop and look at the dinosaur bones. But his friend kept going, so George kept following. Finally, they walked right out the back door. So they've gone to the museum, they're walking through, and he's looking around and enjoying what he's seeing. All kinds of things, all types of dinosaurs and dinosaur bones, and he's really, really interested. And then they go out of the back door. Let's see what happens next. George and the man with the yellow hat climbed into a van. And if those of you who are not familiar with the van, there's a van there in the picture. And here's a van here. There's a picture of a van. Larger than a car, smaller than a bus, but it can fit a lot more people than a car. So they're going in a van, which makes me think, why would they need a van? It's just George and the man with the yellow hat. So let's find out. George and the man with the yellow hat then climbed into a van and rode to a rocky quarry. Dozens of people were there. Some were digging with shovels. Others were using pickaxes and other kinds of tools. So they were going together with other people and they were going to what is called a quarry. Now, I told you guys a little earlier that we were going to talk about what a quarry was. And here's a picture of a quarry. And a quarry is a really deep pit where there are lots of rocks and stones and different materials there that are made from rocks and hard surfaces. And so this is where they were going to, this deep pit where these stones were. So here's an illustration of what that might look like. So we have people around here. There's a ladder there so that they can climb up there. These guys have a wheelbarrow because if they pick up some stones that they want or some things that they find and discover, then they can move it to another place. There's a lady there and she has a tool in her hand and we're going to talk about what that tool is. We definitely see shovels. There's a little pail we saw earlier that Curious George was looking at. All right. Surprise, George's friend said. We will be helping the museum scientists dig for dinosaur bones. George was curious. Were they really dinosaur bones buried in the quarry? He ran over for a better look. And of course, he got closer. There's a girl with a pan, and then she has, this is called a pickaxe. And the man with the yellow hat as well. Now we've seen a few of the pickaxes there. Now they are going to do a discovery. They're going to need this to get through that hard rock. And so that's why it's super duper sharp on the end. Then there's another end that kind of serves like a hammer, but it will help them to dig things out and to be able to get deep in the rock to find whatever they're looking for. George watched the scientist at work. She dug up some dirt and she put it in her sifting pan. It took a little time to sift it. And in the end, no dinosaur bones. Wah, wah, wah. Oh well, she said, time to try again. So they spoke of a sifter, and some of you may have one of these in your house. When we talk about sifting things, I like to bake cakes, and sometimes I'll put flour in it and move it around because it has really tiny holes. It's like a strainer. It has really tiny holes in the bottom of it, and I'll shake it to make sure that it doesn't have any lumps or anything in it. So this is what the girl was doing with the sifting pan that she had. So she would get the dirt or whatever they scooped up, shake it out, and then if there were any dinosaur bones, that would be what was left in there. But of course, they found no dinosaur bones. How do you think George is feeling right now? He's going on a dinosaur discovery for bones, and so far, no bones. Maybe a little disappointed, I would think. But the next pan was empty too. So was the next one. And the one after that. George yawned. I really could be doing something else. So far, digging for dinosaurs was not as exciting as he expected. Here we have some more people. Now, I want you guys to take a look at this guy right here. Now, we already know George's history. We know that sometimes he can be a little unsafe. Sometimes he can do things that he should not be doing, going places he should not be going. And I want you to think about, what do you think George is about to do? There's a shovel, there's a pickaxe, there's a pail or a bucket. What do you think George is about to do? Probably be unsafe. Not sure, but if we read on, and what we just did, guys, is called make a prediction. So if you thought about what he might do, you just made a prediction about the story. You use your illustrations, and you came in your mind, you got a picture in your mind about what you thought he would actually do. Let's find out. George was curious. How could he help find dinosaur bones? So he really just wanted to be helpful. He found a spare shovel lying nearby. He dug and dug, but he didn't find any dinosaur bones. I think the cool part about this is he happy or is he sad in the picture? Why do you think he's still smiling? I think he's having fun anyway. I think he's just having fun digging in the dirt. What do you think? Anybody thought like I did? I think he's just having the time of his life playing with the shovel. When he climbed out of his hole, George spotted another scientist. He was dusting something with a small brush. Oh, well, the scientist said, this is not a bone, just a rock. George wanted to help. He picked up a brush and went to work. But it turns out that monkeys are not very good at dusting. Was he really dusting? I don't think so. I think he was making a mess. And he was also having dust all over the man's face and getting in his eyes. But he was only trying to help. As he hurried away from the cloud of dust, George bumped into a wheelbarrow. Oh no! Maybe there were dinosaur bones in it. He climbed up to look inside, but the wheelbarrow was awfully tippy. That means it was leaning and leaning and leaning. What do you think is going to happen next? Make a prediction. What do you think is going to happen next? So he's in a wheelbarrow that's tippy. Let's find out. Crash! George, the wheelbarrow, and a whole lot of dirt went flying. Hey! Someone cried. What's that monkey doing? Making a mess. Look at him. How do you think these people are feeling right now? I wonder. George scampered away, straight up the cliff. Monkeys are good at climbing. So George kept going higher and higher. And if you guys look closely, although we have some other characters in the story, we have some cute little animals. There is a lizard there. There's even a turtle there. And everybody's watching who? George, of course. When he got to the top, he accidentally knocked a stone over the edge. The stone hit another stone, which hit another stone and another. Oh my goodness. So first, he's throwing this dirt everywhere. Then he's dusting dust everywhere. Then he gets in a tippy wheelbarrow. Then he climbs to the top of a hill, knocks over a rock and other rocks. What do you think is going to happen to all of these rocks? I wonder. Let's find out. Oh no! It's a rock slide! Look at all those rocks falling down. That is so dangerous. Oh my goodness. Now, although he was really just trying to help, he is really making a mess and making it really unsafe for other people. Wow. That Curious George. Now, there are no words on this picture, on this page. And as we look at the picture, what do you think the people are saying to George? Or what do you think they want George to do? We're looking here at the man with the yellow hat. What is he trying to ask George to do? Even though there's no text on the paper, what is the illustration helping you to understand about the connection between him and the man with the yellow hat and the communication he's trying to make to him? What do you think this lady is attempting to do? We see her foot up on the rock. We see the man on the ladder. Do you think they're trying to help him? Do you think the man in the yellow hat wants him to come back down? Or is he saying, stay up there, you're making such a mess, we don't want you here anymore? Think about what you see in the story and how the pictures help you to understand. Here it says, George could hardly believe what he saw. Dinosaur bones! Do you guys see that? After that, the dinosaur dig was even more fun. George helped the scientists dig and sift, and I'm going to cover these words. What does that illustration tell you he's doing there? If you said and dust, you're absolutely right. So we see here how the text is matching the illustrations, and we talked about that a lot. If I covered this up, do you think you'd be able to understand what he was doing? I think you would be, because we've already talked about the word sift, and this is the pen that the girl was using. You guys are way smart. And to take photographs of the bones that he found. So it says he helped them to sift, he helped them to dust, and he also helped them to take photographs. Now, is he really taking the pictures? No, he's doing a couple of selfies with the dinosaur bones that he found. Now, are the people mad with him now? Not at all. They're like, hooray, hooray! And we're at the end of our story here. We see dinosaur bones. They're back inside of the museum. And the next time, as the story says, he and the man with the yellow hat had visited the Dinosaur Museum. George got to see his dinosaur on display. And guess what they named it? A Georgiasaurus. They even named it after him. Wow, that was a pretty cool story. So it worked out for George after all, even though he was getting a little unsafe. And so we got to see some really cool things in the story, the characters in the story, where the story took place, which is also called the setting. Very good. And some of the things that happened at the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story. Now today, yesterday's activity, I believe you were deciding on who the characters were, identifying the characters, and we were asked to tell your family and friends on which page of the story that you read where the characters were on that page. And so today you were asked to retell this story in your own words, and helping your parents to understand what you thought the most important events were, what happens in a quarry. So we saw that they were sifting, they were digging, and different things. So as you guys read back through this story with your parents, I hope you enjoyed my reading of this story. And because I enjoy doing it, of course, So go ahead, read back through the story. You may see some things that I missed out on. Like every time I read a book, if I read a book over again, there's always something new I see in the book. So sometimes when you're like, we have to read the book the entire week, yes, it's fun. You're going to find something new every time. You're going to make a discovery every time. So guys, thank you for hanging out with me, reading this book with me. I would say give me a review and say how you think I did, but that's okay. Hope you enjoyed it. You guys have a great day. Again, I miss you guys, and I am going to be back next week to read the story that we have for next week. Help you guys out with that as well. So have a great day today. Have fun. Learn a lot. Take your breaks. I am out.